breakfast. Um, so take me through what have you done today so far then? So take me through your exam ritual.
So I got up at 8:30 and then went to the exam and yeah, I had the exam 2 hours and then came out of the exam and then yeah, that was that really, a bit anticlimactic really. And then I had a chat with one of my course mates and then I went to the gym and I went into town to collect a laptop and now I'm here basically.
Nice. So gym after the exam, that's the good. How did that gym session feel? Did you have more energy having kind of released that weight off your shoulders, or did you kind of feel you were a bit tired out from the exam?
I think quite tired out and I hadn't really eaten enough foods to sort of get me really energized. So it was, I think my workouts taken a bit of a dip since exams, but you know, that's not a problem. It's not a problem. The main thing is you go, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of eating as well, like how do you generally what's your what's an optimal nutritional plan for someone who goes to the gym as much as you do?
Well, I think it's just a case of eating enough calories, really. So I try to eat about 2,600, which is a ridiculous amount. Actually, it's really hard, so I don't always do it. But yeah, just kind of some form of meat and some form of good carbohydrate, and then some form of vegetable, and a few smoothies in between there. Because liquid calories, you can get a lot. You have like a whole meal's worth of calories in just
in a drink. Yeah,
in a drink. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's my kind of strategy. And also nuts, I think.
Nuts, yeah,
very
nuts
good for testosterone.
Really
so
it gives testosterone. So yeah, so take me through what's the benefit of having a lot. I mean, I don't really know much about testosterone other than it's like a hormone that's usually released in males. But what's the benefit of having a lot of testosterone? So I'm taking your calorie advice right now. Actually, just having a lot.
That's okay. What are you eating?
It is it's kind of rice, pilaf, and tofu dish.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a bit of carbs, a little bit of like problem with veggie diet is there's not a lot of protein in
yeah.
other than things like tofu and nuts. So
yeah, I guess
it's very carb heavy.
No, sure. Yeah, well, it's I mean, it's kind of something you just say really, or increase testosterone. But I think I don't know. I just ate like a whole packet of nuts. That sounds really wrong, but a whole packet of cashew nuts yesterday, and today I just feel amazing. I just feel like kind of very confident, very sort of capable. And
do you think that's the cause and effect with the extra testosterone?
It sounds ridiculous, but I kind of do. I think I don't know, just like because you get a lot of fats in peanuts, and you feel good, but maybe it's kind of a placebo. I don't know.
No, I definitely agree. I whenever I have nuts, sort of make it. Whenever I go home, actually, there's always a lot of nuts there, and I always have a lot, and it's really nice because you sort of feel much more, sort of particularly in workouts, you just feel much more kind of energetic.
Yeah, well, I think fats are really the thing actually that I've been neglecting because I don't really know the difference between fats and carbohydrates, but I think fats really fuel your recovery. And in a way that I don't know, maybe carbs don't, but
carbs
definitely good macro.
They seem quite empty carbs. Like there's not a lot to them other than just that quick boost of energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with I found quite a lot. I can get into like the carb trap where needing more carbs
Yeah,
to energize me, but it sort of comes very fleeting. So it's amazing how carbs is generally what you kind of crave more in, but in terms of what actually gives you the energy and gives you the ability to sort of function, it's really the protein and the fats. I think is where the good stuff comes from.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's really hard to engineer that, I think.
Yeah, because so many things are carb based. Like it's
Yeah,
amazing, particularly veggie diets. Like everything, like you go to a shop and like go out something for lunch, everything's like a sandwich, a wrap, rice dish, pasta dish. So it's really hard, I find, to sort of have any kind of regular meals just without loading it with carbs. One thing I do tend to benefit a lot from is having a lot of potatoes. Because for some reason, although they're carbs, they seem a lot more substantial.
Yeah, I think what are they called? Sweet potatoes are the thing to eat.
Yeah, whenever I go to your household, there's always a really nice kind of healthy meal, just with a perfect balance of everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's one of the things I'm grateful. I think is family, like healthy meals as a child, because it makes it so much easier to eat healthier later on in life, because it's so kind of feels so natural to do.
Yeah, I suppose we take for granted that we both have kind of parents who do generally cook quite healthy food. Which is really good, because like I suppose it's probably quite normal nowadays for families not to, I suppose, have as much attention on that area. And I suppose as a kid you can get in just sort of accustomed to sort of the wrong kinds of food. So
yeah,
it is. I also feel very blessed for that. That thing. And yeah, no, it should. It sounds pretty cool. And yeah, how's everything else with the channel going? So I love all the content, because it's all very kind of cold showers. It's, sleep. It's all kind of really. It's all just personal mastery, which is such a beneficial topic. It's sort of once you really commit to that journey, you never really want to look back, do you?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been it's really life changing getting into it, I think. Yeah, it's going very well. I'm just kind of interested with it, because I do think it is just a case of outworking everyone else who has a YouTube account, and then you'll see results. And it's actually not that difficult to get somewhere with it. I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's just that consistency kind of manifests itself into a growing subscriber base, doesn't it? So it's sort of just consistently good videos over time, and yeah, eventually that will get you very far. I think, because I think so many people need to hear that the messages you're sharing, because it's just such a huge impact. What do you think was the point where you sort of start to think, was there a point, can you remember a specific point in time where you sort of thought, I'm gonna really try to make all these improvements, or was it just kind of was it very blurry kind of time?
It's a really good question, because I actually have a very definite answer for this. Because I remember it was like a Friday night or something. It was like early this year, I'd say, kind of maybe early November, I'd say. And I was kind of well, I was going to go out with funny enough, Ollie New Love and Ollie Royal.
Oh, nice.
And
Two
then,
Ollies. Three Ollies on there as well. 3 Ollies.
Ollie's on wasn't there.
Oh.
And but they were both too tired to come out, so I was a bit of a loose end. You know, that's quite an unpleasant feeling where it's like, you know, you don't know what to do with yourself. And I was just like, how about I just tidy my room, you know, because I hadn't tidied it in a while. And I saw a, do you remember Hamza, like the YouTuber I showed you?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
So he's the guy who was like quite a chubby sort of teenager, and he's turned into this like absolute fuckboy.
Yeah.
He's this really good looking kind of mixed race person.
Yeah. Well, I just put on one of his videos, and it was the most kind of fuckboy video about kind of about like how to text girls. I remember it so really clearly, and I just remember tidying my room, and it's like, you know, when you've been like really working hard on a problem, let's say your computer's not working for some reason, and then you suddenly realize something all along that, like, oh, the microphone's turned off or something like that, and it all works perfectly. Well, I really got that kind of feeling from listening to that video. And
interesting. It's like a kind of combination
of tidying my room, and then just finding all this stuff about all these secrets about romantic relationships, and it all just kind of fell into place. And then I was just like, I was kind of resolved to get a gym membership very soon after watching that video, and then I sort of just kept watching his content and started doing more things like meditating, and then going out stopped becoming so important all of a sudden, which sounds rather sort of sad, but it's just like there was a whole other life that I didn't realize existed of sort of becoming the person you always were. Because I think it's great going out, but it's not actually that much fun if you're not the person you want to be.
Yeah, so true.
I just realized like I've got so much work to do. Like,
yeah,
it's really, and it's funny, I don't really have much time for anything else now, really, apart from improving myself in some capacity, or just, you know, things I have to do, like uni work. So it's really changed my life, you know, like even just socializing. I mean, I think it's still important, but it's very weird. But for the first time in my life, I'm almost very reluctant to. It's like, well, that's an evening I could be spent doing some YouTube videos or meditating, or I don't know, something like that. Or I'll be tired the next day, so, you know, getting up at like all this kind of stuff, which is really weird because I'm not so used to it. But
it is strange, isn't it? I mean, I sort of went through a similar not similar, not quite, obviously every journey is slightly different, but I found that the social element, it's almost like socializing used to be like a given, you have to do it, you know, it's like you grow up and you have to socialize, full stop, you know, and then after kind of just sort of doing similar things, it sort of dawned on me that you can sort of socialize, you can worry about socializing and have that as like a crutch that you have to do, or you can just say, you know what, screw that, I'm gonna spend this time how I want to spend it and not be a yes man. Because the first video I really liked because it was interesting how you were just completely opened up on one moment where you sort of broke your alcohol fast on Try January or something.
Well, my first video on the channel.
Yeah. And I was curious about that first video because I was wondering kind of how to sort of evolve this journey. And then Yeah,
Oh,
you
you've
sort
done
of
a
went
deep dive.
into, yeah, it was a deep dive, but you kind of went into sort of how it relates to sort of the whole premise of self-improvement really is kind of just rejecting that, particularly the youngster and the uni student, kind of that idea that you have to socialize every night or you have to sort of fit in with everyone else
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah.
Because do you find it's just sort of a bit not when you sort of focus on this, do you find that you're kind of very much in the minority of people who actually care about this stuff?
Yeah, yeah. It really amazes me how few people want to try and improve themselves. I don't know if you found the same thing, and it's really annoying because I just kind of think like a lot of friendships. It's like it's I want to spend time with them, but it's taking time away from like improve myself. I know it sounds so like, why can't I just switch off for a bit? But I think it's just so important that you do, and it's just frustrating that you have to basically do things that are just gonna drag you away from where you desperately want to go. Like I'm not saying don't drink, but you know, like kind of going out and just getting drunk, and you know, the temptations there to go out, have a cigarette, and staying up late, and it's just knocks you so far off course. And I just think if you kind of just stick to a few good things that you're doing every day, like getting up early, going to the gym, and meditating, let's say, you just do those three things for like a week with no distractions. It's like amazing the kind of progress you could get. But then you just have one night where you're going out with your friends, and it's like that's fun, but you just lose. Once you realize how much you lose, it's so hard to do it.
It's hard to do it because you know the cost. You know the cost isn't just that night. The cost is the next day, and then it's that kind of slight loss of momentum, loss of confidence. Yeah, I agree with you. I just got another question. Did you find that when you sort of started, were you kind of surprised at how quickly all the kind of when you really committed to it, it sort of you started to gain traction on your own. You started to feel a lot better about everything. You started to sort of feel a lot more clear about wanting to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I was amazed I was able to very quickly get the discipline to work out every day, because I just thought, oh, it's not possible. But once you kind of once you just realize that, oh, actually it is, you just got to kind of realize that it's what you need to do. If you want to improve yourself, it's just actually incredibly easy, and just everything else gains traction so quickly.
Yeah, no, exactly. What are some like? So you mentioned one of the people who you sort of. What other kind of primary sources do you use to sort of kind of get ideas about self improvement?
So Holy Trinity in my in sort of self improvement, I would say, is Hamza, First Man, and there's another guy called the CEO of Testosterone, which is a pretty ridiculous name. But
so Hamza, the first I'm going to type these in. Just so
yeah.
The Hamza, is it HAMZA?
Yeah.
Sweet. Hamza. And then what was the second one?
There's a guy called First Man, just
First Man, yeah.
one ST man, yeah.
Wow. They were kind of Holy Trinity.
That's the Holy Trinity, yeah.
Wow.
And Jordan Peterson,
yeah. And Jordan Peterson, no.
Of course.
Yeah. And these people, are they kind of, have they all sort of been through similar journeys, you know, in the sense that they've kind of, I suppose, yeah, started with kind of started from sort of struggling as a youngster to sort of really gaining real clarity on what they want to do with their careers.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them struggle in different ways, you know. Like, I think for me, the struggle's been very based around wanting sort of verification from the opposite sex. So that's really been
to get laid, in other words.
To get laid, yeah. And that's been very directly related to my self-improvement. But I think for some people that's just not a problem. Like they just got other things in place that means it's not necessarily a problem for them. But then other things are like
if you were to summarize that, what would you kind of say from what you've learned?
Yeah. I can actually do this very well. So what I would say is kind of the first thing you want to realize is, and Jordan Peterson says this, if you're not attracted to women, like that's on you, you know. It's not on some, you're not being played badly by the system. And like also like it's not because, you know, you're from like there just aren't good girls in your area or something like that. Like it's just, I think once you reach a certain threshold, it's like people come to you because it's so rare that someone's actually sorted out their life. That's why there's a really tiny percentage of men who are just having, you can just have any girl they want because there's so few men are actually doing well in say society. Yeah. So it's funny because I've watched a lot of pickup stuff as well, because there's kind of, it seems to be two ways. One is like just get good at talking to girls in a sort of bar or something. And I think there's a lot to be said there. But I think for the real results, you need to be the person worthy of attention, whether it's just sexual desire or romantic desire. But you just need to be that person, and then everything else kind of takes care of itself. And you're more confident because like you know what you bring to the table, and your life's better as well.
Okay, that's fascinating. So I suppose what you're saying is, you know, we can talk to the hills about, you know, techniques and sort of pickups, but ultimately the fundamental thing driving your success is you as a person.
Yeah.
So okay, that's very interesting. So I suppose by that kind of hypothesis, the more kind of comfortable people are, or the more sort of people have really figured out a good balance in their lives, and sort of a living healthy, happy existences, the more likely you are to attract women.
Yeah, basically. But it doesn't sound like it's true really. It sounds kind of like something that someone would say, but that's kind of what the evidence needs to be presented to me. And I'm interested to see over the next few years how sort of I change in the eyes of women, you know, to see if it's true or not. But from what I see, I just think that makes, because the other thing is there's so much access now, you know, so it's just such a competitive environment. And yeah, I guess girls is kind of like, you can just, if you're hot, you just, without the work, it's kind of your life, you're not object of attraction. But I think for guys, it's very different. I think
yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
Exactly. I suppose it obviously I haven't done any research on this, so I have no clue about this, and I guess it depends what you mean by kind of being better. But I always thought of it like it's a bit like doing an exam. Like there are some people who just work on exam technique, and they get pretty good marks with women, even though their fundamental knowledge and their kind of whole character is sort of still very unbalanced and still kind of just not comfortable in themselves. And then there's some people who are very, very good at mastering themselves and mastering the subject, but then don't have quite very good exam techniques. So they kind of, when it comes down to the exam, they just fumble in the moment and they don't quite understand it. But
which is kind of the opposite in a sense. To what I'm saying.
But I don't know. I have no clue. So obviously you've a little bit more. So
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm. Yeah, I mean, it's a real $1 million question. I think. Is this whether it's true or not? Because that is a very good point. You know, you do see people who haven't really got their lives together at all, and it's like, but they're doing perfectly fine with. Well, I remember I was waiting in a train station and I saw this guy with sort of girlfriends or whoever, you know, really beautiful girl. And I was like, what's he doing that I'm not? Because like he wasn't particularly well dressed. He wasn't particularly like, he wasn't some massive guy, you know. He wasn't, you know, horrendously good looking. And I was like, that's what's going on there. But I think the answer to the question is that's so beyond your sort of comprehension what's going on there. He doesn't know what's going on there, and it doesn't really change how you should behave, because at the end of the day, if you do raise up your value enough, regardless of what's happening with him, you will get the results that you want. And that seems like the best strategy anyway, because eventually, even, you know, some people just have a natural charm with women, but even then, if they don't get on to make themselves a fully rounded character all round, I think eventually they get complacent and start to lose. Like someone who has a lot of muscle to begin with, but doesn't work out, will just kind of lose it over time. You know, it turns to fat eventually. But some really skinny guy can just sort of work out really hard, and in a sense, it's unfair because the skinny guy's got to do a lot of work, but he still gets the results at the end of the day. And that seems like the better strategy than just kind of wishing that he could have been born muscular. So that's kind of how I view it. Which maybe answers your.
I suppose a good question way to think about, actually. I think now that you mentioned that, I think it's almost like what we observe in the world when we see these anecdotes of, you know, guys just who are clearly not, who we can clearly see as unbalanced or kind of not a character with a very beautiful girl. That's only what we observe, but we don't observe the millions of people who haven't got their shit together and haven't got a good girlfriend. So I guess the numbers game, isn't it? If we observe that, it's still very low probability that if you don't have your shit together and you don't take good care of yourself mentally and physically, then you're not going to be able to extract it. So yeah, that's a very good, that completely revolutionized my thinking of that.
Well, I think it's an important thing to realize, because it's easy to fall in the trap of just thinking that girls will only go out with people who are sort of on self-improvement, and that's not exactly true. But I think because some people just have a natural instinct, you know, a natural advantage for whatever reason. But when it comes to you personally, it doesn't really make a difference, you know, whether other people are on self-improvement or not, because the easiest way to attract a girl, if that's what you want to do, is to be someone who's got their shit together. And yeah, maybe there's a sense of you get what you want. You won't get what you want. You won't get what you need, which is kind of a hard pill to swallow, because we want what we want, really. And maybe there are some girls who just are attracted to that kind of chaotic guy.
Lifestyle, who drinks a lot, who's very unbalanced. Like, because that's what I was thinking. Like, maybe that's attractive. Maybe sort of really not. being someone who lives on extremes and sort of has these big swings, maybe that is attractive, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I've been surprised because I think it is like some girls, but again, like even these girls are attractive, you're not going to be able to. You're certainly not going to be able to have like a fantastic relationship with them. And yeah, it's a funny one. I don't really. I feel like I've got this thing in my head, but it's difficult to probably convey it.
Yeah. So another kind of topic you talk about a little bit is sleep, and how are you finding your sleep routine at the moment? How is it in a good place?
It's not as good as I want it to be, to be honest. But it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah, I've I'm sort of in two camps, because on the one hand I want to go to sleep very early. But it's very hard to do that consistently. And on the other hand, I just want to have a consistent time I go to bed. So because they're kind of different benefits. You get much better sleep if you're going to bed at the same time. But it's amazing if you can get up really early in the morning and just get shit done. So I'm kind of fluctuating between those two things at the moment. But I want to get on, like, after exams. So it sounds funny saying that, but I think after exams I want to get back onto like a really early schedule, because I can do it. I've kind of do it now, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how diverted the literature on sleep is. It's sort of, there's a lot of different opinions on sleep, on like what one should do to have a good sleep schedule. So what is the general rule of thumb you abide by? Kind of early to bed, early to rise?
That's the aim. But I think it's amazing what you can do if you're willing to tweak the rules a bit. Which is actually a topic of a video I did recently, where I was suggesting that if you're a student, and you can't really go to bed very early, then just kind of go to bed at 3 every night, or however what time you usually go to bed, and you'll still get all the benefits of a consistent sleep schedule. Which sounds really silly, because you think there's no point in having a proper sleep schedule if you're not going to bed early, but it's like, yeah, you'll miss out on that early sunlight, and you probably won't be as productive, but you can still go to bed quite late and have a good routine. And then
consistency, I think, is
as long as it's consistent. Yeah,
point there.
This is the key thing.
So yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter what time it is. It's just as long as it's consistent. Then you're regulating your circadian rhythms properly.
Exactly.
Which is actually giving you a good mood throughout the day. So yeah, I suppose that is. I think that's kind of the only thing that people agree on, is just making sure it's consistent, because obviously, I think with the going to bed part, one of the book I read on sleep.
Which one was that?
It was just, I actually don't know. It was called Sleep. There's many books called Sleep. I'll see if I can see if I can find a specific author from it, because oh yeah, here it is. Nick Littlehales, who is an elite sports sleep coach.
Okay.
And his book is called Sleep, and the kind of slogan below is "The Myth of 8 Hours, the Power of Nap, and the New Plan to Recharge Your Body and Mind." So what that book advocates, what the one idea is advocates, is don't worry about what time you go to bed. Just get up at the same time.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Do whatever sleep as much as you need to in a week, but it can be your bedtimes can be 11. Like no one wants to go home after a good party. Is one of the quotes in that book. So don't worry if you're staying up a bit late one night, because you can, as long as you
can get out of bed.
Do not get up late.
Okay.
But get out of bed, live your day, take a nap in the midday if you need, and then catch up on your sleep the next night, is sort of the message of that book. But
okay.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, that's one school.
Would you, just following that sort of theory, would you go to bed earlier than, let's say you stayed out one night, would you go to bed earlier the following night to make up for it, or does he believe in that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I suppose there's kind of a range of different cycles. So
yeah,
like in a week, if you think of sleep in terms of 90-minute rapid eye movement cycles, which is, I know, is a bit of it's a very kind of imprecise model, because the idea that you go to bed and then instantly enter one of those REM cycles is absolutely fanciful. Well, it kind of is and it isn't, but I'll explain why in a minute. But what he's saying is that in a week, if everyone's different how many cycles they need. So some people naturally need more sleep than others, depending on lifestyle, genetics, habits, etc. But everyone has the sort of bandwidth within a week of how many cycles they can have. So for most people, it's around 35. That would be about 5 cycles every night on average. So that would be about 7.5 hours on average. But if you go to 30 within a week, that's not the end of the world. Like if you or 32 around that. So in which case, I don't think at any point he says go to bed earlier. I think he just says if you miss a night's sleep, even by 2 cycles, you can have what's called a very, like a properly long nap in the midday round. And this is obviously applies if you have a normal sleep routine. If you, like, around 2 p.m. when you'll naturally have that energy dip in the afternoon, provided that you got up on time and you worked hard in that morning, you'd probably be a bit tired by 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So you could literally just treat yourself to a full 90-minute nap, like,
almost
like prepare for that as if you're going to bed. And that's what I actually did a lot of uni, and it feels weird. It feels so counterintuitive, but there's something about your head hitting the pillow at 2 p.m. after a good morning and going to bed and just really kind of relaxing into it. That's so nice. And then go to bed at normal time. Another idea of that book, I'm sure it's very similar to a lot of the stuff you've read, is that you have to make sure that time before you sleep is not spent in front of the news. You're not kind of eating too late. That's why I'm eating now, just because it's sort of the timing of the digestion. And then you're sort of, I don't know, just doing things to help you unwind, like going for a walk maybe, or reading a book or writing a journal. But that was a really long
no, it's useful stuff. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, you're on quite good sort of, I remember we did a podcast in the past about your sleep, and you seem to be on quite a good schedule. So
yeah, I mean, it does seem that way, but it's amazing. Even you can be practicing it for a long time. I think the thing about self-improvement is it's amazing how quickly you can slip out of it. It's amazing how easy it is to sort of just lose track of it. Not kind of, obviously in your mindset you'll always be thinking now self-improvement, but in terms of your habits, it's amazing how easily kind of bad habits can creep in. So I've definitely had in the past year just sort of weeks and sometimes even months where I've just been so much less disciplined
Yeah.
It's like there's always kind of barbarians
at the gates. Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that analogy before, and yeah. So regardless of where you're at, because you're constantly trying to push yourself, you'll always have willpower challenges that really test you. Actually, there's a book on willpower I read recently, which I think you'll be quite fascinated by, called Willpower Instinct.
Okay.
Which is kind of a cool book, and it's written very kind of. It's not a very sciencey book. It's written very kind of. It's very scientific, obviously, the insights, but it's written very kind of user-friendly way, should we say?
Okay. So I'm just going to get some water.
It's cool.
Join me for a. Oh, also.
I'll join you for a little tour of your your house. Yeah, and so another topic you talk about a bit is the video on cold showers. I like that.
Yeah. Right.
Just mind, when did you start taking cold showers? Because I think you did it before, sort of.
It's funny, cold showers. I was kind of always been a big fan of them, like since school, really. But
school, really? Wow, that's a long time.
But well, I think not really, because I don't really see it as like something to be disciplined about. I just thought it's quite I got quite addicted to the feeling, the sort of coldness in your body, but the kind of warmth inside as well.
It feels amazing, doesn't it?
So I've always been quite big on that. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it was. So have I told you about Wim Hof before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what I think it was during my first year. I think while I was away, my parents did this. My parents had these very gung ho friends who sort of do the who were into all this kind of stuff, and they booked a Wim Hof instructor to go to the house and like do a full day of kind of cold therapy and all different kinds of insights. And my parents went to it and they said they found it interesting. They told me all about it. I was like, this sounds interesting. So I bought the book of Wim Hof and sort of had a read. And yeah, I found it. I found the insights amazing. It was just so kind of refreshing to think that if you really get into just cold showers and breathing, you can dramatically improve your health and your kind of energy levels. And also the underlying philosophy behind it is really, I really like it. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And funny enough, with cold showers, I actually find it better when you go into. So obviously, we have a pool and it's very cold. In the summer, isn't it? Yeah. So we opened it up just in April actually. So when I was back for Easter, and it was so cold, but it felt so it felt much nicer in the cold shower, because when you're like fully, because I think you mentioned once cold baths are like even better than cold showers.
Yeah.
And I agree. I completely agree with you. I think just going into that really cold water and sort of swimming and then just kind of relaxing into it and breathing. That's
because there's kind of no escape almost. So
yeah, there's no escape. Whereas cold showers are sort of like, it's more of a quick kind of shots of pain rather than really relaxing into the comfort.
Yeah. It's harder to fully relax into the pain in the way you can with a cold bath.
Yeah, with a cold bath, you really engage that part of your brain, which engaged. So yeah, that's why I found it a bit fascinating. But yeah, and also meditation as well. So what kind of meditation are you?
So I meditate every day, but to be honest, that's one thing that's really sort of stagnated for me, because maybe I kind of am seeing benefit, but I'm not really aware of it. But I slightly feel like I'm not really making the breakthroughs that I want to with it yet. You know, I know you have to really sort of commit to it fully, and it's like a sort of habit more than anything, but it's a slow burner, definitely. But I think there is something that's so key about it as well. So I'm kind of very happy to spend a lot of time doing it. But my general philosophy at the moment is to kind of just do what I call sort of light meditation, where I just kind of, I think the number one thing that's good about meditation is it's just time where you're purely away from stimulus. And obviously the idea with meditation is you're focusing on one thing and stopping your mind from wandering. But I sometimes find, and this probably isn't really meditation anymore, but even just shutting my eyes for 10 minutes and kind of just chilling seems to bring like a lot of benefits. Like I'm more sort of, even if I'm not just focusing on the breath when I'm shutting my eyes, I feel like I'm a lot more mindful throughout the rest of the day. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny one, meditation. I mean, what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, it's weird. I always I've meditated for quite a long time, and
yeah,
it's only really in the last year that I've started to really see the benefits of it, because before I was meditating and I was just running through the motions. I was just sort of closing my eyes, because I always did it guided, and maybe guided is a bit of a double-edged sword, because it's not really,
I think it is.
It's not really necessarily your own innate mind at work. But then guided, what I've learned, is only useful if you're really, really set the intention of being present, and being able to really, because the key thing is don't worry if your mind wanders. Your mind will always wander, and there'll always be distractions and bad thoughts. So the key thing is not to suppress them, but it's just catching yourself, being really good at catching yourself when that happens, is the real trick. And yeah, it was only really last year that I've started to really kind of focus on meditation, and just kind of turning up every day, really present, and trying to make it a little bit better every day. And that's when I've really seen the benefits, in just sort of general focus. And yeah, but it's really, it's a tricky thing. I think the way, I think sometimes just closing your eyes for 10 minutes, as you did, and kind of relaxing a little bit, although it doesn't seem like, when you say it, like a lot, it's actually incredibly valuable 10 minutes. And it's actually just so unusual to do that in today's society. Like it's probably what, you know, I imagine our great ancestors were doing all the time, but not in today's society. Everyone, you know, most people can't go 30 seconds without some kind of stimulus. So yeah, that's the great thing about meditation. It's just such a massive antidote for all the overstimulated elements of society today.
I mean, I think it's really important, and I don't know, it's really weird because since doing meditation, I really noticed how much, well, I already knew this already, but like how sort of mindless I am in day-to-day activities. Like at home, like my parents' house, everyone always calls me the clanger, because I just clang around when I was cooking food. And I sort of put that down to mindlessness, because I'm just going through the motions and not really being very present with what I'm doing, you know, and kind of smashing things down. And so I've really noticed that that's how much I do that. I have meditated, but much more than that is I've realized how much other people do it. And it's like kind of being, I sort of think it's about a lot of things in self-improvement. It's like being stuck in long grass, and then a sort of bird flutters down and picks you up. As you're being pulled up into the heavens, you kind of look down at the grass and you just see everyone else and you're like, shit, oh, everyone else was here as well, you know. And it's like, I just think everyone's so mindless now, and I don't know what stuff was like before social media, but I think surely that is because of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Mindlessness is just so common. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like even with like things like food, purchasing decisions.
Or just the idea that you shouldn't rush things really ever, like unless there's a extreme example where you're really pressed for time. You got to resist that urge to rush for no reason, just because. Like I just see it so much. People just rushing for no reason. And I think it's actually such a terrible idea.
Yeah, even when walking, like sorry, you go there.
No. Go on.
I was just saying, you mentioned that people rushing for no reason. You see it like when people are walking the campus. I just sort of walk at a normal pace. Everyone's walking like at 10 miles an hour. It's almost like they're sprinting. And I've always wondered why that is, but maybe it's just that idea that they must rush, but yeah. So no, that's fascinating. So yeah, I suppose you explore like a range of topics in your self-improvement. What do you think is the best video you've done on this channel so far?
Oh, that is the question. Well, in terms of views, I did one really bad video about shaving your head. That got like 64 views, which is a lot for the amount of subscribers I have.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow. But I don't think it's really my best video. I don't know actually. That's a really good question. I did one about looks maxing that I think is probably the most comprehensive thing I've done.
What was that about? So looks maxing.
So just kind of how to make yourself look presentable and like attractive, So things like well, the way I sort of talk about it is like hygiene and cleaning your face and like kind of what to wear, just how to look good basically, which I think is a really lost art. Like it's weird. I often get on the bus and it's like guys just don't know how to sort of make themselves look good now, and sort of having done that as well, I still see that quite a lot. So yeah, maybe that one.
I think I'm looking at the video now. It's got a picture of you from the good old no surfing in Moscow days.
No, it's
the best example of looks maxing.
I know the one you mean. That is actually quite a good one.
I love that. That comparison though.
It's good, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's weird actually looking at a picture of you from before.
Crazy.
It just looks so different. Completely different. Wow.
But it's the same spot, it's so weird.
The same spot, but yeah, I can definitely even the way you stood as well. And
yeah.
Yeah, the one on the left, no offense to the one on the right, but the one on the left looks just slightly more.
Yeah, it's just kind of everything.
There, I think.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, I don't want it to come across just like I'm ripping into my former self, but it's amazing. Just like you tweak a few things, and just everything changes. Your whole how you you just look like a much more exciting person all of a sudden.
Well, I think it's a massive strength to be able to be humble enough and sort of be self-aware enough to actually look at your current self or former self and sort of think, this wasn't, not because you're a bad person back then, just because just that lack of self-awareness, I suppose. How that was sort of affecting you. So it's I think it is very good trait to have in general. Is to is to kind of
well, it's slightly like something you have to have for your whole life, because otherwise you're just not gonna, your life's not really gonna go anywhere,
aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned there's one video that you got stuck in a rut of dating. It's 31 minutes long. I will watch that. But what would you, if you could summarize it? What was it? About
this is kind of about our previous conversation about doing all these positive habits, and does it actually get you anywhere, or does the kind of, like, is there another way? Is there like a sort of cheat code that we're just not using? And I haven't really watched it back since I recorded it, because I intended it as more as a, I sometimes like journal into a camera.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll upload them on a sort of private, you can have sort of private videos, just because it's a good place to upload it. But it's not like a proper published video. It's just a good place to store it, so I can delete it off my phone. But clearly this one stood out, so I published it. But yeah. I'd be interested to know what you make of it, actually. If you had
I'll definitely have to watch it. And also, sorry, I've loaded you with questions. But last one, I promise. Some of the videos obviously mentioned about the early rising habits. So what are the general tips you sort of give those who are looking to rise early?
To rise early, okay. So you said earlier that the main thing is to get up at the same time every day.
Yeah,
I think that's very true, but I think to someone who's used to getting to bed late, it's actually really important just to try going to bed early, even if you're not very tired, because that way, when the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock, you'll be like, well, I went to bed at 10 and I didn't want to, so I might as well get up now, because otherwise it's just a waste of me going to bed so early. So I think that's one thing that's quite important. And then I'd say, I guess really knack yourself out as well, and try and see the sunset. And like see the sun as early as you can in the morning as well. But it's something that I think I'll have more to say about in the future. But that's what I discovered so far.
Yeah.
What would you say? Just while we're...
to be honest, I agree with you. You're not gonna get up at 5 a.m. for six days in a row when you're a student. That's just not feasible. What you need to do is build consistency in terms of like start with 4 days a week. You're going to get up at 5 a.m. and pick your nights to lie in and the mornings to lie in, and accept the fact that your circadian rhythms will be slightly disrupted. But the key thing is motivation as well. Like what gets you out of bed in the morning is the desire to be better, the desire to improve, and the desire to do something significant in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, then there's no reason you're going to get up at 5 a.m. There's no reason you're going to develop the will. So that's the main thing, is just really find some North Star to chase, find some massive motivation that will really, set yourself alive, and then do it, and then use 5 a.m. as that kind of proxy for your progress. So make sure that hour after you get up is really well spent time when you're kind of getting a lot of good stuff done. So I think the worst thing to do would be get up at 5 and then just wait the morning 3 hours. when everyone's asleep, because then you're not getting much reward from it, and you're kind of feeling tired throughout the day. So I'd say it's what you do after you get up is actually probably the most important. And then also try and connect it to some kind of, try and use that 5 a.m. as some kind of reminder that, you know, this is much bigger than the 5 a.m. This is all about this. That's probably the advice I give. But I think all the tips you've talked about there are very, very useful and practical as well. And everything counts when it comes to It's not easy. Not many people do it because it's really not easy. So
I mean, another thing I tried that you might find quite interesting is kind of opposite to what I just said, which is where if I'm on a really late sleep schedule, I'll go to bed at like 2 or 3, let's say, and just wake up at 6. And then that's it. You actually, like, once you're
circuit
up,
breaker.
kind of, circuit breaking. After a while, you just kind of accepts it. So I guess the exact opposite can also be true as well.
But that's exactly, I think, circuit breaker is, because I remember you said, that was kind of your idea in a sense, circuit breaker. And it's right, but I think it relates to the idea that it doesn't really matter what time you go to bed. So, you know, if you get up at the same time, well, actually, it doesn't quite work that way, because you're sort of breaking a cycle. But still, it sort of relates to the fact that you don't necessarily need sleep that many hours every night, as long as in general you're sleeping a lot of hours.
But that's kind of true, I think. I mean, I'd be interested to read that book, because I think
sleep book. Yeah, I'll let's have a look. I'll get it for you for your birthday.